It now becomes my pleasure to introduce to you the President and CEO of the American Public Power Association since April 2014, Sue Kelly. Prior to becoming President and CEO, Sue was APPA's Senior Vice President of Policy Analysis and General Counsel. She has appeared before federal and state administrative agencies and testified before committees of the United States Congress and state legislators. I have also found, especially in these last 12 months, that she has made my tenure as your chairman a real delight, and I have really enjoyed her mentoring of me and becoming a really close friend. Help me to welcome Sue Kelly.
Good morning. And welcome to our association's 2019 National Conference. This is the first time that we have met in Austin. And as you've already discovered, it's a happening place. Great food, great music, and a strong public power town. Jackie, thanks for that warm Texas welcome. We will do our best to support the local economy while we are here and keep Austin weird, while of course holding to the high standards of behavior that are expected from public power utilities at all times. I want to thank the conference sponsors. We have a record number of sponsors this year. I counted 50. It takes many hands to pull off this conference, but sadly, it also takes money. So thanks to our sponsors for helping make the conference possible. And I want to say a special thank you to those who worked at the Day of Giving on last Friday. We had 175, the most we have ever had. We spent the day at 3 sites. We worked at a food bank, a housing project for the homeless, and an animal shelter. We did this with the financial aid of 8 Day of Giving partners, so thank you for your support. Our Day of Giving exemplifies the service ethic that our utilities live every day. Another is providing mutual aid. Mutual aid is our version of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Many of you called on mutual aid these last 12 months because of hurricanes, floods, wildfires, storms, tornadoes, you name it. And many of you heeded those calls, traveling long distances to help other public power utilities, and also IOUs and co-ops. Thanks to all of you who worked to restore power quickly and above all, safely to utilities that were stricken by natural disasters. There is one notable example of public power utilities sending mutual aid that you might not know about. The Guam Power Authority went to help the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation restore power on Saipan after her Super Typhoon Yutu last October. Yutu was one of the strongest typhoons to ever hit the Pacific. You can learn more about that effort at this breakout session on mutual aid that we are having at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And I also want to mention one other service effort. You may recall hearing at the National Conference last year about our Light Up Navajo effort. We wanted to help the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority connect some of the 15,000 families on the Navajo Nation that do not have and who have never had electric service. We've spent the last year working with NTUA, its general manager, Wally Haas, and NTUA staff to pilot this effort. A deed grant helped us do that. I'm thrilled to report that we completed 6 weeks of work on the nation recently with the help of over 120 line workers from 25 public power utilities. We connected 228 families to the NTUA grid for the very first time. And we've done it, yeah. And we have done a video about that effort, which I would like to show you now. So, Toby, play the video.
You know, most of the time we're, like they mentioned in the orientation that we went through, we're going on storm relief to help people that have already had power, and we're just bringing it back to them. They've been out, a week, maybe a month at the most, but for people that have never seen it before, and to, be out here, and it's just a whole new experience altogether, and we're just so proud and humbled to be able to be a part of it.
God bless. Thank you. I've been waiting a long time. It's gonna make me cry here in a little bit. It's gonna make me cry.
I want to thank all of the utilities that helped with this effort, as well as the association's Light Up Navajo team, which was led by Mike Highland and Alex Hoffman. Many people spent many hours on this effort. Could all of you from the utilities that helped and our staff please stand and be recognized? The Day of Giving, Mutual Aid, and Light Up Navajo all show the spirit behind the hashtag that we use to highlight Public Power's commitment to our communities, the hashtag CommunityPowered. We work in our communities every day to provide reliable, affordable, and environmentally responsible electric service, but we don't stop there. We hang the holiday lights, we support economic development, we teach electric safety in the schools, we volunteer at community events, and we offer our facilities to community groups. But the one thing we often forget to do is tell the story of what we are doing. The hashtag CommunityPowered reminds us that in this social media-driven era, it is not enough just to do the good work in your community. You have to tell the story about what you are doing every day. If you did not participate in our first community-powered awareness campaign last year, I hope you'll get on board when we roll out our follow-up campaign this summer. I know we nag you a lot about telling your story, but we say it for a reason. Those of you who were in New Orleans last year may remember Terry Huval. He was the utilities director of the Lafayette Utility System in Lafayette, Louisiana. Did I pronounce that right? Lafayette, thank you. I asked him to come on stage to act as my Cajun translator to help welcome you all to New Orleans. Well, between that conference and this one, LUS became the target of a private equity firm called Bernhardt Capital Partners. Mr. Bernhardt approached the mayor and proposed that Bernhardt be granted a 40-year contract to manage LUS. And as you can imagine, when that proposal went public, a robust community conversation ensued. Terry retired from LUS so that he could speak freely to the community about LUS's excellent record of safety and service. He explained why Bernhardt's proposal was not in the best interest of LUS's customers. Terry is well known in his community. His personal integrity as a longtime resident and public servant is unquestioned, so he could play this important advocacy role. But it was LUS itself, with its low rates and reliable service during Terry's years as director, and its vital role in the community that led to the council's decision to reject the offer. The council members made very clear that LUS was not for sale or for lease. The citizens of Lafayette knew that they were community powered. They knew what they could lose if the council accepted Bernhardt's offer. So the citizens stood up for LUS. A similar story played out in Mount Pleasant, Utah. Rocky Mountain Power, the neighboring IOU, offered to buy Mount Pleasant City Power. It offered much less than the system's actual value. Shane Ward, the power superintendent, helped the city's mayor and council understand the value of public power. But in the end, it was the citizens that shut down that takeover attempt. Residents packed the public meeting where the council voted to turn down Rocky Mountain Power's offer. What would happen in your community if someone offered to manage or buy your public power utility? Would your utility have the support of its public officials, governing body, and customers? If not, you need to think about why that is and what you can do when you go home to change that. We have a breakout session on this on Tuesday at 1:30, and one of our speakers will be Jeffrey Stewart, who is the current interim director of LUS. Jeffrey has picked up where Terry left off. He's working to help Lafayette understand everything that LUS does for them every day. Terry and Shane both had to step up and lead during crises that threatened their utilities. You'll hear more about leading during turbulent times later in this conference. I, for one, am waiting with bated breath for our closing speaker on Wednesday, Doris Kearns Goodwin. I am a fan of American history. She is one of my personal heroes. She's written acclaimed biographies of American presidents, including Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, and Lyndon Johnson. You should visit his library if you get a chance. Her book on Lincoln is called Team of Rivals, and it's a textbook on leading during times of crisis, because there's nothing like a civil war to sharpen your leadership skills. In her new book, Leadership for Turbulent Times, she talks about Lincoln and his cabinet. When he became president, Lincoln put together the most unusual cabinet in American history. It was made up of conservatives, moderates, and radicals. It included 3 men who had sought the Republican presidential nomination that Lincoln had just won. So putting them all in his cabinet was a very gutsy move. When asked why he did it, his answer was simple. The country was in peril, and they were the strongest and most able men in the country. He molded this strong, yet potentially dysfunctional, group into what Goodwin calls an administrative family. And together, they led the Union through the nightmare of the Civil War. I've been thinking a lot about the leadership of this association in what is surely a turbulent time for our industry. As you know, I intend to retire at the end of this year. I have been working with our board chair and our executive committee on that transition since last fall. The search committee has already started the recruiting process, and I am confident they will find a strong successor, someone who can lead this association through the next set of challenges that it is going to face. But this is my last chance to speak to all of you. And I want to take the opportunity to highlight the 3 greatest challenges I think our public power family must confront. These issues are overarching, systemic, and very challenging. If we do not face them head on, public power could face serious problems down the road. We could lose our customers' business. We could risk being disrupted. Indeed, we could be left behind. Or we can figure out these opportunities, what they present for us, and work with our customers to take advantage of them. And if we can pull that off, we can be nimble, customer-focused, and respected utilities in the 21st century. The first issue is our customers' increasing use of technology. Americans are embracing technology in ways that most of us could not have anticipated 5 or even 10 years ago. It is changing how we live our daily lives. If you told me a few years ago that I would be riding in cars with strangers or staying in the homes of people I had never met and who I had found through the equivalent of an online dating app, I would have said, "You're crazy," you know? My mom told me never get in a car with strangers and certainly not to stay in their houses. But now I do both, and I don't think much of it. And I was late to this party. Many of our younger customers have grown up with these ideas, right, interns? Right? And think nothing of it. These new services are disrupting the taxi and hotel industries. Our business, distribution and sale of electrons, is also facing that kind of disruption. Of course, electricity itself is not going to go out of fashion. It powers more and more aspects of our lives. We use it for heating and for cooling and increasingly powering our many electronic devices and for transport. I just leased a Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. I have not been to the gas station for the last month. My Shell station's loss is Dominion Power's gain. That is disruption. And how we generate and use electricity is changing rapidly. Retail customers are going to increasingly be generating their own power and at times putting it on our grids. It's already happening in some parts of the country, and it will soon come to the rest of the country. So we need to come to the grips with these changes now. We need to consider what they mean for our services and our rates. What services are our customers going to want from us in the future? And how much will it cost us to provide them? And how do we price them to recover our costs while protecting our customers from cross-subsidizing each other? And how do we keep the prices for these services competitive, indeed attractive? Implementing the new technologies that we're going to need to do this to keep up with customer expectations will be a headache. It will require investment dollars. You will have to pick technologies. You will have to deal with Monday morning quarterbacking and possible premature obsolescence. And it can trigger customer pushback, as many of you who have done smart grid installations know well. But those headaches are minor compared to what could happen if you do nothing. We cannot just continue to keep the lights on and the beer cold. Our customers are going to want to track their usage and figure out ways to save money. They're going to want to be more energy efficient. More customers are seeking green power options, on-site generation, and storage to ride through power interruptions. They will soon want to tell Alexa to pay their electric bill. And if this sounds daunting, it's because it is daunting, but it's doable. If your utility does not have the expertise and resources to develop these new technologies and services within your four walls, there are folks in the public power community that you can turn to. If you're a member of a joint action agency or a state association, you can partner with them. Public power-owned service providers like Hometown Connections and the Energy Authority can assist with service offerings and analytics. Third-party vendors and consultants can provide you valuable expertise, and there's 100 of them in the expo hall waiting to talk to you. The important thing is to make a plan if you don't have one. And if you do have a plan, keep moving forward to implement it. Adjust it as circumstances change. You'll need to find out what services your customers might want and need. We need to anticipate those wants and needs and develop service offerings to meet them before customers vote with their dollars to meet their needs with a different provider in a different way. The second overarching issue is physical and cyber security. As CEO of the association, I serve on the Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council. That is a high-level industry government group that works on the security issues facing the electric utility industry. And the longer I serve on that committee, the more I learn. And the more I learn, the more I am concerned. They say you're not paranoid if they are really out to get you. And in this case, they are really out to get you. We at the association have been able to obtain some funding from the Department of Energy. We've used those dollars to develop assessment tools, training, and technologies to help improve your cyber and physical security. But this issue is not going away. It's just going to get more difficult and important. Please do not think that because your utility is small, what you do does not matter. You do matter. And you do not want to be the slowest wildebeest on the Serengeti security plane. We must build and internalize a culture of security at all public power utilities, just as we have done with safety. There really is no choice about this. We have to get on it. The third issue that the public power family has to confront is greenhouse gas emissions. I raise this issue with some trepidation because it has become very politically charged. And my association is, as I often remind the staff, fiercely bipartisan. We do not take political sides. To the contrary, we advocate in Congress and before government agencies on the issues important to public power. And we do that based on the policy resolutions that our members pass. Our membership passed the current policy resolution on greenhouse gas emissions in 2007. At that time, Congress was considering a cap-and-trade regime. The resolution says that greenhouse gas emissions from the combustion of fossil fuels is the most significant policy issue confronting the nation. It says that Congress should carefully consider all solutions to address the issue. It advocates that federal legislation should be economy-wide, consider financial impacts on consumers, protect the ability of U.S. industries to compete, maintain the reliability of the grid by keeping a diverse generation mix, and promoting the role of energy efficiency and recognizing regional differences. What that resolution does not say is what form that federal legislation should take. And as those of you who were around then know, the Waxman-Markey cap-and-trade bill did not pass. Climate change then receded into the mist as a legislative issue, and the action shifted to the Environmental Protection Agency. But since the 2018 elections, climate change has re-emerged as a policy issue, a major one. Congress, especially the House of Representatives, is examining it closely. A new generation of activists is taking up this issue as their cause, and some of them have been elected to Congress. In the absence of federal action, many state and local governments have already moved to start reducing their greenhouse gas emissions, and some of those localities are represented at this conference. So the increasing pressure to address this issue is coming both from the top down and from the bottom up. Because of the renewed emphasis on climate change and the new dynamics in Congress, the policy ground is shifting. How many of you came to our legislative rally in February? Okay, you'll remember that we heard from Representative Paul Tonko, a Democrat from New York, at the L&R committee meeting. We asked him to come because he sits on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, and he's chair of the subcommittee on environment and climate change. He spoke about the need to develop a climate change strategy. He would like our nation to be greenhouse gas neutral by mid-century, and he's released a set of principles to help to reach that goal. Given his background, state, and political party, that would be expected. But we also heard at the legislative rally from Representative Greg Walden, Republican from Oregon. We gave him the Association's Public Service Award. He is now the ranking member on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Before that, he was the chair of the committee until the Democrats took the House. He shared with us his considered assessment that being in the minority sucks. That was a direct quote. But more important for present purposes, he also told us there's broad bipartisan agreement in Congress that prudent, practical steps should be taken to address current and future climate risks. And soon after that speech to us, he co-authored an editorial with Representative John Shimkus, a Republican from Illinois, and Representative Fred Upton, a Republican from Michigan. The first words of that editorial read, "Climate change is real, and as Republican leaders of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, we are focused on solutions." They said that Congress should encourage innovation and renewable energy development, promote carbon capture and use, support renewable hydropower, yes, and safe nuclear power, which is emissions-free. This is very different rhetoric than we heard from the Republicans in the leadership in the last Congress. And then in April, Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, Coleman's home state, said he wants to develop climate change legislation to introduce next year. He said that the GOP should, quote, just cross the Rubicon. He reasons that if you want the party to grow, people from 18 to 35 believe in climate change whether you do or not. So why am I telling you all this? I say it to explain that the association needs to revisit this issue. We need to decide where we as a family stand on it, or whether we simply cannot speak with one voice to it. It is not likely that comprehensive climate change is going to become law in 2019 or 2020. But the conversations in Congress are starting now about what climate change legislation should contain. And if public power wants a voice in those discussions, we have to be at the table. Otherwise, we risk being on the menu if and when legislation moves. And to participate, we need to know not only what we must oppose, but what we can support. We are currently working to gauge the current center of gravity among our membership on this issue. Our Climate Change and Generation Policy Task Force, which is composed of public power CEOs from all around the country, met this past April. They talked about what's happening in their towns, states, and regions. They discussed their various viewpoints and concerns. And at the end of the meeting, a subgroup volunteered to work on possible principles that they could present to the task force this fall. This is the same task force that developed our 2007 resolution. Its chair then was Bill Gallagher, a former association board chair and general manager of the Vermont Public Power Supply Authority. After many years of service, Bill has recently stepped down, and I want to thank him for his leadership during those years. We've now recruited Mark Crisson as our chair. You likely know him as our association's last CEO, my predecessor. But before that, he was the CEO of Tacoma Power Utilities, and he was also a former association board chair. So I have great confidence that he can help the task force develop consensus policy principles and hopefully an updated resolution that can guide our advocacy issues or guide our advocacy effort on greenhouse gas. It is important to get this right because any new greenhouse gas legislation that Congress passes will impact all of us in the public power family for many years to come. I am not the first leader of our association to say this. You may remember Alex Radin, our longtime executive director. In his 2003 autobiography, he wrote these words: "The major unresolved issue is that of global warming. Opinions continue to differ about the extent of the danger of global warming and the measures that should be taken to combat it, but the issue cannot be ignored. Additional steps, many of which will affect public power utilities, are being demanded. It would be prudent for public power to anticipate the changes that are needed rather than react to pressure after the fact." We have done a lot to reduce our emissions since Alex wrote those words. Public power utilities reduced their CO2 emissions by 33% between 2005 and 2017, and we should be proud of that. If we can help our customers use electricity more efficiently, electrify new loads like transport, and incorporate more lower carbon resources into our power supply, we can still do more. The public power family must address greenhouse gas emissions, improve our cyber and physical security, and incorporate new technology into our services. While these are three big, hairy challenges, I have great faith in public power's leaders, and I have no doubt about your dedication to serving your customers. Together, you can take these challenges and turn them into opportunities. So I want to close by thanking the association's board and executive committee for allowing me to serve as your CEO. Thank you for the trust you placed in me and for your policy leadership. Working together with you to lead the association has been an unforgettable experience. And I want to thank the association's staff, past and present. I came up through the ranks, so I know how hard the staff works and how much they care about you and what you do. Our job as staff is to help you do your job better, and we all know it. And finally, I want to thank you, the members, for the good work that you do in your communities every day. I was first drawn to working for consumer-owned utilities when I was only 2 years out of law school. I saw even then that consumer-owned utilities were trying to do the right things for the right reasons. And I dedicated my working life to you for over 35 years because I, too, want to do the right things for the right reasons. And when we do things right, everybody in our community benefits. So thank you all for having allowed me to do this work on your behalf, and for your friendship, support, and constructive feedback. Please enjoy the conference, meet your peers from around the country, catch up with old friends, and go home with a renewed commitment to powering your community and new ideas to do that with. Thank you very much.